You're listening to Catholic Chicago. Ahead, the Archdiocese of Chicago brings you programs about the people, events, and issues that touch our lives. Welcome to Catholic Chicago.
Good morning. Welcome to Catholic Chicago on WNDZ 750 AM. Guess also on youtube.com/Catholic Chicago, youtube.com/Catholic Chicago. Father Greg Sacco is the rector of Holy Name Cathedral in Chicago. We'd like to welcome all our listeners this morning, both on radio and also live stream. We have a tremendous program lined up. Formerly known as the St. Francis Retreat House in Oak Brook, Illinois, Mayslake Ministries is a lay-led 501c3 Catholic Christian not-for-profit spirituality center founded by Father Jonathan Foster in 1991 as a retreat house without walls. Since 1991, Mayslake Ministries has served the spiritual needs of Catholic Christian adult women and men from all walks of life, providing multiple spiritual opportunities for people who seek a deeper relationship with Jesus Christ. The executive director of Mayslake Ministries is Dr. Mary Amore, back on the radio again by popular demand. Mary has written a new book entitled Every Day with Jesus, and she has joined us this morning to tell us all about it. Mary, good morning. How are you?
Fine, Father Greg. Good morning. How are you doing?
I'm doing very well, thank you. It's hard to believe we are into this season of Advent, and Christmas is rapidly approaching. And
Yes.
But every time you've been a guest on the program, Mary, you're always so joy-filled and cheery. And I know you've got to have hard days, but I know that you are such a deeply spiritual woman. Before we get into the book, Every Day with Jesus, brand new, right off the press, is maybe give people your background for a moment. What led you to be the executive director? Because I know you've been there, now, 15 or 16 years? As the
16 years.
16 as the executive director. So what was your life before that leading up to it?
You know, Father, I was born and raised a cradle Catholic in the 1950s. I went to St. Eulalia's School in Maywood, right there on 9th Avenue and the Eisenhower. And, you know, my life was pretty normal. You know, my father was an Irish Catholic guy, so I learned my Baltimore Catechism, and boy, if I didn't come home with an A, you know, I was in big trouble. So I learned everything I could about God. I knew all the doctrine, but I didn't know God. I didn't know Jesus. And really, it wasn't until I went to IHM right after Vatican II for high school that a priest said something that changed my life forever. He said, you know, speak to Jesus as if he were your friend. Well, I was 15 years old. I knew what a friend was. So from that day forth, I began to weave this personal relationship with Jesus where I would seek his wisdom. If I was making a decision, if I got mad, I was quick to apologize. But, you know, slowly over the decades, Jesus truly became my best friend. And remember that commercial, the American Express card, never leave home without him? Well, that would be me. I never leave home without Jesus. He is always with me.
Now, it's
and I
interesting.
think that's
It's
helped
very
me get
interesting,
through
Mary,
the thick and thin of life.
that where that line was when that priest said to you as a 15-year-old, talk to Jesus as a personal friend. And it was such an incredible insight for you as a teenager. Same in my life when I was either a junior or senior at Notre Dame High School, college prep in Niles. And a line that I read in a classroom at Notre Dame, or it was in a poster board, but it said this, that our being here on earth is God's gift to us. What we do with our lives is our gift back to God. And that was such a powerful line. Our being here on earth, okay, is God's gift to us. What I do with my life is my gift back to God. And that was a game changer in my life, like the line for you. Okay, now moving fast forward, and all of a sudden you get go to undergrad, graduate, a job in the outside world. But then what happened with the Mayslake Ministries in terms of how did that opportunity even open up for you?
Again, that was, if people listening could understand that God is always talking to them, always. It's like your line on that poster, the line that the priest said to me. So I was, I had gotten my doctor of ministry degree in liturgical studies, and I was working as a liturgical director at a local parish in Downers Grove. And I knew I had outgrown my place there, but I thought maybe God had wanted me to teach in a college. So I sent out all these resumes, and I got so many reject letters I could have wallpapered my bathroom. So I sat and I said, all right, Lord, what do you want me to do? And in November of that year, I was looking at a newspaper from the Diocese of Joliet, and in the back there was an ad that said executive director wanted for Mayslake Ministries. It was like an arrow had gone through my heart. I read it. It said new direction, new this, new that. And so I went upstairs and sent my resume right away, emailed it, and then back forth. We had several interviews, and actually today is the anniversary, December 4th, where they called me and said, you've got the job. And I started in January. So,
so was you?
It
They
was
offered
amazing.
you the job 16 years ago today, which would have been on December 4th, 2007. You began it in January of 2008. Well, congratulations on your anniversary. But it's interesting that you said something so important. God is always talking to us, but are we listening? Or do we sometimes want packages from God wrapped, or blessings wrapped on my terms instead of God's terms? So that so that we are listening, but it has to be on my terms instead of being open with the Spirit of what God asks of us on His terms. Wonderful. Another great line is that it goes like this: courage means being afraid, but still going ahead and doing it. So in life, we are scared. Sometimes we're filled with fear. So courage means being afraid, but still going ahead and doing it with the help and grace of God. So in the last 16 years, before we get into the book, and that is, how has Mayslake Ministry, and all that you have done, Mary, in touching so many lives, has been a game changer for so many people, but how has being the executive director touched and affected your life?
It's true. I am certainly not the person I was 16 years ago, Father. I think just meeting the hundreds of thousands of people that have come across the door at Mayslake Ministries, people seeking Jesus, and we having programs and services to be able to help them. It's really been humbling for me, and it's like opened my eyes to seeing really all people as my brothers and sisters on the journey, and how it's a privilege for me each day to be able to answer the phone. And I always pray to the Holy Spirit before I answer, because I never know who's on the other line. And just myself, I could answer terribly, but if I know the Spirit is speaking through me, then I can help them. And so, it's been just a very humbling journey. It's a privilege for me to help others on their walk with Christ. While doing that, I really have also drawn very close to Jesus. So
here's another one, and that is, my brother had a great question to me about 4 or 5 years ago. My brother Adrian said, Greg, if you had not been a priest, would you be this holy and religious? And I thought to myself, because every day my life is about talking about God, about Jesus, about caring, about relationships. But so my whole life, thanks to the gift of God and the gift of priesthood, has been God-centered. But if I had been a broadcaster, if I'd been a doctor, if I'd been a lawyer, if I'd been a teacher, would my life have been this God-centered? I would hope would be yes. But like in the life that you do, every day in the work you do, now granted you get bogged down with emails, desk work, meetings, because you are, quote, the pastor of Mayslake Ministries with a lot of administrative responsibilities. But you know what I'm talking about in terms of your day-to-day life with your work is so God-centered. Say something about that for you, Mary.
Father, for me, my husband always teases me. He goes, well, if you worked in the real world, I said, I do work in the real world. I said, I have the freedom to be able to mention Jesus, to mention God, to mention Mary, Joseph, whatever, anytime I want. I understand people that are in, workplaces in the real world, as my husband would say, you have to be aware of who you're talking to, but we can proclaim Jesus through our actions, wherever we are, no matter who's working, in whatever position you are. The way people get to know Jesus is how we behave. And so we can proclaim his goodness without really saying a word, just by the way we treat one another. And that's also been something that's really helped me at Mayslake, just being able to talk about Jesus, to be Jesus to other people, and to see Jesus in those that come to us.
Now, along those lines, let's move it into your book, brand new book, hot off the press, by Dr. Mary Amore, Every Day with Jesus. When and how did you get the idea for this book? Does this go back maybe 2 or 3 years? Have you been thinking about this book for the last 10 years? How did the book come about, Mary?
Father, this book has been literally burning inside me for a long time. Do we have time for a quick story?
Sure. Oh, but yes, absolutely.
Oh, okay. All right. So, as I said, I was a cradle Catholic that went to Catholic grammar school, high school, even college, and then graduate school. But I had gone to my 10-year grammar school reunion, and I was talking to one of the boys that I went to school with there. So that makes me like just about 18 or 19. And he was talking about his relationship with the Lord. And he said, Mary, he said, I would take a bullet for Jesus in the Eucharist. If someone was coming in to steal him from the tabernacle, I would take a bullet. Well, I got to tell you, Father Greg, I went home and I thought about that one, and I knew that Jim had something I didn't have, because I didn't think I would do that. I mean, I knew about God in the Eucharist. I had memorized that Jesus was there, but I certainly didn't feel it. So from that day forth, that was another life-changing moment. I used to sit in front of the Blessed Sacrament and I go, Lord, please reveal yourself to me. I know you're there, but I don't feel it. I really need to know you're there. And, week after week, month after month, year after year, that his relationship, his reality for me began to unfold. And then I knew that with all my schooling and everything else, that there had to be a way that other people needed to find their way to Jesus in the Eucharist. Then came the year of the Eucharist, and 3 years of preparation. And I said, this is it. I've got to write it now. And so, we had just published Every Day with Mary, Every Day with Joseph, which was written by the spiritual directors at Mayslake, and of course edited and written by me too. But this one, Every Day with Jesus, is written all by myself. I did it. And it's like tapping into a well. When you finally can say something that's been needed to say a long time. This book was written probably in 3 months. It just kept coming and coming and coming. And my husband would go, are you done writing today? I go, no, not yet. And it was just truly, it was like I tapped into a well that had no bottom. And so this book really is about finding Jesus in the Eucharist and how that experience can transform your life so that you can become Jesus to others.
We are going to go to a break here on Catholic Chicago and WNDZ 750 AM. We come back, we'll continue the discussion with your brand new book. Because I've got a few questions up my sleeve for you, Mary, about the book. It's an outstanding book. Again, it's get us on youtube.com/CatholicChicago. Father Greg Sakowicz, and our guest is Dr. Mary Amore, Executive Director of Mayslake Ministries. Stay with us. Do not touch that dial. We'll be back in a minute.
For more than 20 years, Catholic Charities Adult Protective Services has been advocating for seniors who are the victims of abuse, neglect, confinement, or financial exploitation. With our partners at local, city, and state agencies, our trained case managers follow through on every concern that is brought to our attention in a cooperative way to ensure that our seniors are safe and protected. According to the Illinois Department on Aging, last year nearly 21,000 cases of elder abuse were reported in Illinois. Of these, only 5% were reported by seniors themselves. So raising awareness is an important part of this issue. If you are concerned about a senior you know, call 800-252-8966. That's 800-252-8966. With your help, we can stop elder abuse and look out for the seniors in our lives.
This is year 44 for me teaching. When I started here, there were teachers here that had taught me when I was a student. Now I'm the old person. Right now, I teach junior high math. I love when kids find what I'm teaching to be fun and they get it. I see that light bulb go off and it's a thrill. People are always amazed. What? You're here for 44 years? It's hard for me to believe, frankly. I love what I do. Every summer I think, oh, I miss the classroom. Even on the weekends, I think I can't wait to get back on Monday and teach those quadratic equations.
Shape the next generation of leaders. Teach. Apply today at archchicago.org/schooljobs.
Catholic Charities offers a wide variety of volunteer opportunities to those who want to share their time and help us serve people in need. Whether it's stocking the shelves of our food pantries, helping refugees learn the English language, tutoring school-aged children, becoming a mentor to young adults, sorting clothes in our clothing rooms, serving hot meals to those who are facing homelessness, or delivering meals and making cards to lift the spirits of our homebound seniors, we are deeply grateful to all those who want to join in our mission of mercy. Volunteer opportunities are updated weekly for people of all ages at ccofchicagovolunteer.com, or just call us at 312-655-7053. That's 312-655-7053. Thank you for helping us follow Jesus' call to serve our neighbors in need.
And welcome back to Catholic Chicago on WNDZ 750 AM. Get us also on youtube.com/CatholicChicago, youtube.com/CatholicChicago. Father Greg Sakowicz, and our guest is Dr. Mary Amore, Executive Director of Mayslake Ministries. And Mary, the brand new book, Every Day with Jesus, for the sake of our listeners, how is the book divided? Literally 365 reflections for the entire year?
Mm-hmm. Yes, Father. It's a daily devotional, so there's 365 days plus a week for Holy Week. And the sections are divided monthly, of course, and each month is focused on a different spiritual experience that we have when we encounter Jesus in the Eucharist. We have like faith, mercy, healing, forgiveness, transformation, love, peace, hope. So, the whole month, whatever month you're on, focuses on that attribute and then that experience. And then the reflections are really made to connect your experience of Jesus in the Eucharist with your everyday life. Whether you're a busy mom, dad, a single person, an elderly person, a homebound person, this book is for you, because Jesus' experience of the Eucharist is for everyone.
So for example, then it does. What is your theme for the month of December, the month we're in right now?
Transformation.
Okay. And the thing is, so for example, if someone were to take your book day by day, we're talking about 5 to 7 minutes per day. I mean, you could spend an hour on each day and make it a real meditation reflection. Or for someone who's right before work or going to school, start of a busy day, it could be a 5 to 7 minute time out with Jesus.
Or even less if they're really running. Each reflection starts with a line of scripture, then just a little paragraph of reflection to tie this in with your experience of Jesus in your daily life. And then there's a second paragraph that really ties in what we just talked about with the experience of Jesus in the Eucharist. And then a little question for you to reflect on. And then a one-line short prayer. So truly, there's no reason you cannot start every day with Jesus, because it's a quick and universal read, meaning that next year you can read the same, reflection you read for today, but because your life has changed, a year later, it's going to speak to you in a different way.
See, I think you hit on something very important. That is, what people don't realize is, when we gather weekly around the table of the Lord and the Sunday readings every weekend on a 3-year cycle ABC, someone can say to me, Greg, I heard that gospel once before, 3 times before, 10 times before, but I always say, listen to the readings for that day like you have never heard them before, because you are a different person. So for every listener here on radio or getting us on YouTube, you are not the same person as you were a year ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago today. Do you realize, Mary, today is December 4th. Well, take it back. We are doing the broadcast today, taping on Monday, December 4th, and playback is later on. But on December 1, 1958, was a horrific Our Lady of the Angels fire, in which 92 children and 3 nuns died in that fire. And so every year when people are remembering that horrific event, their lives were also different. So, for example, Christmas a year ago, Christmas this year, you're not the same, I'm not the same, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. And now that is a gift, because life is going by quickly, of course, but nothing changes, everything changes. And the greatest constant in life is change. So then, now in writing this book, and took you about 3 months, as I asked you about your Mayslake Ministry position 16 years ago when you were told, yes, join Mayslake Ministries, how did writing this book touch your life as you were writing the book daily over the 3-month period? How did it touch and change your life, Mary?
Father, again, I would pick up, a scripture passage, and I would start writing it. And all of a sudden I might get distracted or something, and I had a thought, and then I would come back. And because of that distraction, what I was going to write might have changed, and I wrote something else. I was actually in the process of writing one reflection when a really beloved friend of ours at the parish passed away, a deacon. And I sat back down after hearing that news, and all of a sudden I wrote that reflection about grief and about finding Jesus healing us, helping us through these dark moments. So it's like this book really took on a life of its own, because I would sit down with one thought, and yet that's what makes it so relevant, is because I was open to the Holy Spirit to change what I was going to write and to write what the Lord wanted me to write. And so
Now, here's something very interesting. If you had written this book 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 3 years from now, it would have come out different, because you would have been in a different place in 2015, in 2020, 2025, because Dr. Mary Amore would have been in a different place. But somehow, when we trust in the Lord, great things happen. But see, we like to be in control. We like to be in charge. I think in my life, many times I say, Lord, where the Lord is saying to me, Greg, let go. Let it go and trust me. And I remember when I was a kid, I used to love the circus. And a few times family took our family to the circus. And the thing I was always fascinated most, of course, besides the eating, the cotton candy and peanuts and a lot more candy, was the trapeze act back and forth. And one thing I learned years later is that when the person is going back and forth, and the other person is now going to let go and then maybe flipping through the air, is that the person flying through the air, having left the trapeze, has to be able to let the person grabbing be in charge. That he just holds the arms out instead of trying to grab onto the person who's catching him. He literally has to trust to be caught. That's the key to the high wire act. He has to let go and trust that he will be caught in midair by the catcher. So the key is the catcher catching the person and not the other way around. And that image struck me, let God catch us. Let the Lord catch us. That God's in charge, we are not. But again, because we love to be in control, in charge, I'm sure God sometimes smiles upon us. And now, if someone would like to get a copy of your brand new book, Every Day with Jesus, how can they purchase a copy, Mary?
Father, they can get it through our Sunday Visitor, so it's osv.com. And it's also available on amazon.com. So
again, those two, give us
people can order it, and it makes a really great Christmas present for anybody on your list.
Again, how can they purchase? Tell us again one more time.
Oh, okay. It's our SundayVisitor.com, which is osv.com, or they can get it at amazon.com. We've got a limited amount of copies in the office, but everybody finds it easier just to order online. So.
And now, for someone who's not really computer literate, if they want to give you a call at the office just to learn more about Mayslake Ministries or about getting the book, what is the phone number?
Sure. Our number is 630-852-9000.
That number one more time.
630-852-9000.
And we're going to go to a break here on the radio program on Catholic Chicago. We're going to come back, finish up a few thoughts about the book, and then get into the second half of the program regarding Mayslake Ministries, because there's so much happening, open for everyone, men, women, all ages. You are listening to Catholic Chicago on WNDZ 750 AM. Get us also on youtube.com/Catholic Chicago. Father Greg Sakowicz and our guest, Dr. Mary Amore. Stay with us. We'll be back after these messages. And again, do not touch that dial.
Caring adults make all the difference in the lives of adolescents. Catholic Charities understands this, and our mentorship programs provide a free opportunity for young adults to spend time with volunteers who genuinely care about them. This program is ideal for youth aged 9 through 12 who may need support navigating the challenges of childhood and early adolescence. Our amazing volunteers serve as friends who help youth recognize their strengths and empower them to reach their full potential. Catholic Charities conducts a thorough background check on every volunteer, and our program coordinator closely monitors and supports every relationship. Mentoring is a fun after-school program that can help young adults build confidence and enjoy fun activities with their peers, too. To learn more, visit CatholicCharities.net or call 312-655-7970 in Cook County and 847-782-4224 in Lake County. We're connecting youth with great role models. Join us today.
People always say, how can you spend your day with 3-year-olds? Seeing the changes that they go through and just the journey and how they grow, this is a very rewarding job. Even though at the end of the day, we're not the highest paid people on earth. And when I have a parent contact me and say, my child loves school, that to me, I'm setting that foundation for their love of learning. Because really, you are changing lives. You are molding lives.
Shape the next generation of leaders. Teach. Apply today at archchicago.org/schooljobs.
The Cemetery Ministry is a core ministry of our Catholic faith tied to the corporal works of mercy. It's comforting to know that our Catholic cemeteries are caring for the remains of our loved ones awaiting the resurrection. There are 44 Archdiocese of Chicago Catholic cemeteries willing to help you in your time of loss. Call 708-449-6100 or visit CatholicCemeteriesChicago.org. Catholic Cemeteries, serving the Catholic community since 1837.
You're listening to Catholic Chicago. Ahead, the Archdiocese of Chicago brings you programs about the people, events, and issues that touch our lives. Thanks for letting us be part of your morning. Now again, Catholic Chicago.
And welcome back, Catholic Chicago on WNDZ 750 AM. Get us also on youtube.com/CatholicChicago. And Father Greg Sakowicz along with Dr. Mary Amore. One quick question, Mary, final question about the book before we move into Mayslake Ministries is the title, Every Day with Jesus. How did you come about that particular title for the book? We're not able to hear
Third
you.
of a trilogy on the Holy Family, which, when we began in 2015, we wrote as a group with spiritual directors, Every Day with Mary, looking at life through the everyday, through the human lens of Mary as a young girl, as a wife, as a mom. And that was so wildly successful that in 2017, I called everybody back up. I said, okay, let's write Every Day with Joseph, because there's no books out there for Joseph. And that was really a labor of love, because Joseph didn't say a word in the Bible. So, but his actions spoke volumes. So that actually, Every Day with Joseph actually landed second place in a Catholic Publishing Association for prayer books. And so when Jesus came to be, truth be told, I was trying other titles, and it just wasn't happening. And so again, I said, okay, Lord, I know this book needs to be written. What do you want me to do? And all of a sudden I could just hear Every Day with Jesus, just complete the trilogy. And so I went back to OSV and our Sunday Visitor, and I said, how about we do this as the third of a trilogy, Every Day with Jesus, and I can get what I need to say, what's burning in me. It can go through these pages, and boom, they said yes, and zip, 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 here we were. So again, when you're doing God's work and the Holy Spirit is driving your actions, as humans we might go down the wrong avenue, but God redirected us and said, no, it needs to be Every Day with Jesus, because every day with Jesus needs to be the way we live. And so it's just a perfect title for a book on the Eucharist.
That's outstanding. Now, just to switch gears from Everyday to Jesus, written by you, now let's go to Mayslake Ministries, where you are the executive director. You have so many programs happening and coming up. Highlight a few, Mary. You've got the floor.
Oh, thanks, Father. Great. Well, you know what? Our Advent programs really were Every Day with Jesus, just getting the book and promoting it. So because we're a small office, I didn't want to overrun us. And so, we kind of recoup and, looking ahead now to our Lenten programs. But what's become really successful for us, or successful for the people that come, is we've started a book discussion club. And they meet every month. They're not meeting in December, but in January, we've got these, and these are facilitated by Betty Bentley. Betty is a spiritual director, and she also is a facilitator on our Sacred Presence formation program for spiritual directors, which we can talk about. Mm-hmm. But anyway, she's going to be discussing the book called From the White House to the White Cross, Confessions of a TV News Correspondent, Peggy Stanton. So I guess Peggy served ABC News for years, and she talks about her call, her conversion to really live as a woman of her Catholic faith, even through going through the media and, the ABC News and everything. So that's the book that they'll be reading in January. You can find out more about that on our website. It'll be posted in another week or so.
Now, give us the website, Mary.
Oh, our website is www.mayslakeministries.org.
And they can click on to find this book club, to be part of it, to get into the January read.
Correct. It'll be January 31st. It's at 6:30 at night at our offices in Oak Brook Terrace.
So now, is that also
program has not been posted yet, but it will be very soon.
Now, can someone join that book club via Zoom, or is it in person?
You know what? I think we can actually, because it's it's cold Chicago winter. I think we can probably set up a Zoom session as well during the discussion. If somebody calls up and said, I'd like that, all people have been coming in person. But again, the weather's been nice. So we are always accommodating. That's one of the things about Mayslake Ministries. And I said it before, during COVID, we were forced to take everything online. Right. And we realized, again, that was like a grace of the Spirit, because now we are able to minister to people who wouldn't want to come to Oak Brook Terrace, or pockets of the United States that really, we live in such a diocese and archdiocese rich in Catholicism. It's not that way everywhere. And so we've got a pocket of people we minister to in Mississippi, out in California, Florida. So, we're always happy to bring our programs in whatever venue we can.
Now, the thing is, you're famous for spiritual direction through Mayslake Ministries. First of all, for many of our listeners, they may have misconceptions on what is and what is not spiritual direction. So, let our listeners know, what is spiritual direction and why?
Thank you for asking that wonderful question, Father. Spiritual direction, the name is a misnomer, because it's not someone telling you what to do. It's not counseling. Spiritual direction is when you sit with a certified spiritual director and you begin to unpack your life right now, or the past, whatever. And that spiritual director helps you realize that no matter how heavy your cross is, or no matter how you're searching, or what you're discerning, God is there. And through the power of the Holy Spirit, the director and the directee are able then to make that connection. And as I've said so many times before, when someone can realize that they're not alone, that the Lord is there with them, even in the darkest of times, it gives that moment of peace, and it helps someone carry their cross or discern, where is God calling me? Your life doesn't have to be in turmoil for you to be in spiritual direction. It's one of the greatest gifts you can give yourself with your relationship with Jesus.
Now, how often does a director meet with a directee?
Spiritual direction sessions usually last for an hour, and they're once a month.
Okay.
And so, and then there's some people whose lives get busy, so they might meet quarterly with their spiritual director, kind of checking in, just to let them know. Because what happens is, first of all, everything that's said in a spiritual direction session is confidential. So that's between the spiritual director and the directee. So what happens then, you begin to form this bond with your spiritual director and the director with the directee, because, there's no walls. People are telling their story, and God is there. There's 3 of them in a spiritual direction session, the spirit, the director, and the directee. And so most people who really begin spiritual direction and benefit from it, continue it, throughout their journey, because it's just a wonderful way for them to deepen their relationship with Jesus.
I think many times people forget we are not robots. And so sometimes in our lives, we are in a real groove. Things are going very, very well. But other times in our lives, there's a dryness. We go into a slump. We just are not on all cylinders. We're just literally beside ourselves. And so, also the same thing happens spiritually, because you cannot separate life from faith, faith from life. Even if you take the word life, L-I-F-E, contained in the middle of the word life is the word if. Smack in the middle of the word life is the word if. We're not in control. So somehow I think spiritual direction is you go with an open heart and you put the cards on the table in terms of this is where my life is, for joy, for sorrow, and also when you have a death of a loved one, you lose a mother, a father, a child, a spouse, an aunt, an uncle, a closest friend, that has such a profound effect on us that there's another great line, grieving is a process, recovery is a decision, but grieving we must. And the thing is, otherwise, if you just put it within you and keep within you, things we take in quietly come out in noisy ways. So we have to sometimes to get it out. So we're going to go to a break here on Catholic Chicago. And, Mary, we have an hour on the program. But I could have spent 3 hours with you. There's always so much to talk about. You are listening to Catholic Chicago on WNDZ 750. You can also get us on youtube.com/Catholic Chicago. Father Greg Sackwitz along with Dr. Mary Amore. Stay with us. We'll be back after these messages. And again, do not touch that dial.
Did you know that Catholic Charities accepts car donations? If you're ready to free up space in your garage and put a stop to all those expenses that go along with owning a car, we will gratefully accept your donation, whether the car is running or not. You choose a pickup time that is convenient for you, and we will make the donation as easy as possible, free of charge. You'll receive a charitable donation receipt as well. We accept all types of vehicles nationwide, and you will know that your donation is made to Catholic Charities, an agency you can trust. To learn more about donating your car, call 877-786-4483. That's 877-786-4483. Thank you.
I am a seminarian.
The Church needs compassionate and well-trained priests to help guide each of us through life.
What inspires me, what draws me always to the priesthood is continue to see priests be a beacon of hope for other people.
You can play a part in the education of these young men as they prepare for a life of service to others.
I want to be that beacon of hope too, and it sets my heart on fire.
To support our seminarians, make your gift at archchicago.org/seminarian fund or call 312-534-7959.
Do you have an old bicycle that's not being used? Consider donating it to Catholic Charities Veterans Bike Project of Lake County. Skilled volunteers are refurbishing bicycles to make them safe and ready to be used by veterans to get to and from their new places of work. We also gratefully accept financial contributions that are used to purchase bike helmets and other safety accessories. Our veterans have faithfully served the United States, and now it is our privilege to serve them. For more information on the Veterans Bike Project of Lake County, call 847-782-4219. That's 847-782-4219.
Welcome back to Catholic Chicago and WNDZ 750 AM. Mary, as we continue our discussion regarding spiritual direction, I've had people say to me, I can never get involved with spiritual direction. That's not for me. I don't have time. How do you respond to someone who says to you, I don't have time, or this would not be for me?
Well, we hear that all the time. Well, first of all, when someone seeks spiritual direction, and I do the intake calls, like I've told you before, and we've got 52 spiritual directors, Father. So those 52 spiritual directors all have life experiences of their own and different gifts. And so I try to pair a person seeking spiritual direction with a director that might share similar life experiences or views on life, so that it's a good fit right from the beginning. And then the spiritual direction sessions they're held according to the person's time. So if they work all day, then the spiritual director will meet them at night, or they'll meet them on a Saturday. They'll go the extra 9 yards to help them. We also offer spiritual direction on Zoom, and so with Zoom, anybody can do it at any time, especially again with our Chicago winters. So there's really no reason. I know, I grew up, like I said, a cradle Catholic, and I thought spiritual direction was just for priests and nuns. And so when my pastor said to me 30 years ago, he goes, "Oh, you should do spiritual direction." I go, "What is that?" And then, I realized that it's really the greatest gift anyone can give themselves, because our relationship with God, with Jesus, is the single most important thing. And so as you said, we can't separate our spiritual lives from our physical lives. We are one and the same. And so if our spiritual life is healthy, then no matter what comes across our path, we're going to be able to do our best in our physical life, because we know that God is with us. And no matter what happens to us, we're not alone. And so, spiritual direction is a great way to discern where God is calling you. A lot of people going through retirement come for spiritual direction because they don't, I might be done with work, but I'm not done. What do I do now? What does God want me to do? And so that's just another wonderful opportunity, to help them. So it's really a great gift for everyone. And in that light, since it is the Christmas season, anyone who calls 630-852-9000 and wants to start spiritual direction for their first time, we'll give them their session free, their first session. Oh, wow. So that's my gift to our listeners.
And what is that phone number one more time?
630-852-9000.
Now, besides spiritual direction and books available and so much happening, do you have any programs coming up that maybe our listeners can join in December, January, or February to sign up or learn more about Mayslake Ministries?
We will. I don't, again, with getting Jesus my book up and running. No, so we'll be having programs in February and March, and that'll give me a good opportunity to come back and talk to you. But for January, we've just got the spiritual book club that we've got on the 31st. But again, we're going to try and invite people to begin spiritual direction as a resolution. New Year's, everybody has a New Year's resolution. Why not resolve to deepen your relationship with Jesus by starting spiritual direction, online or in person? So
I think you've got great variety there, because you don't have to drive all the way to Mayslake Ministries, but to do it on Zoom. And I have found spiritual direction in people's lives have said to me, it has been a game changer. And like you say, it is not counseling, it is not psychotherapy. But I think that always a key question is, when you talk to an individual with spiritual direction, the question always is, where is God in all this? Where is God in all this? Because, God is not added on to life. God is life itself, weaving and threading through our lives. And I've said this so many times, Mary, when people talk about, oh, what a coincidence this happened in my life, what a coincidence that happened. I love the definition. A coincidence is God's way of remaining anonymous. I love that. A coincidence is God's way of remaining anonymous, so that for the non-believer, okay, it happens, it happens. What a coincidence. But the believer says God is weaving and threading through our lives in very mysterious ways. And sometimes not only until years later, we look back on our lives and say, okay, now that's starting to make sense. But at the time, we can be angry with God, disappointed, frustrated, surprised. But then let God be in charge of our lives. And spiritual direction is a wonderful vehicle to take an individual where they are at and then guide where they are going, because it's part of the whole journey process. So in the last few minutes is, what else can you offer regarding spiritual direction? Because I've had so many people hesitate about joining. My response is always, give it a try. Give it a try. You have everything to gain and nothing to lose. Say more about that.
Absolutely, Father. And I would encourage our listeners, especially those who have never had spiritual direction, to just, pick up the phone and call me, because I do all the intakes. And again, I'll say it, 630-852-9000. And we'll just talk, and when we talk on the phone, everything is just, it's confidential between you and me as well. And I'm always praying to the Holy Spirit that I can find you the right spiritual director. And what I always tell people is that, try it. 1, 2, 3 sessions. If you don't feel that this is a good fit, call me back up and we'll try you with a different spiritual director. It doesn't matter who you see. What matters is that you are in spiritual direction, because it is such a wonderful way for you as an individual to find your way back to the church, to find your way back to Jesus, to heal so that you find your way back to your families. It's just an amazing, grace-filled opportunity that really is between you and God, just using the vessel of a spiritual director.
And now along those lines, I find the season of Advent, which we are now into, I always say that Advent puts speed bumps along our path, because the month of December for all of us, we get so busy, so crazy, buying, wrapping, running, cards to be sent, notes to be written, baked goods, to-do list, that I really find that Advent, a time of waiting, a time of preparation, but waiting and preparing for what? Is the inbreaking of God already in our lives, but with hearts that are prepared. But I just love that image. Advent provides speed bumps in our lives to slow us down in some ways in the month of December, because I know too many people who have said to me, I can't wait until December 26th when Christmas Day is over. I think to myself, how sad. How sad. I can't wait for it to be over. And by the way, when Christmas comes and goes on the 25th, Christmas Day may be completed, but now we move into the Christmas season. But somehow before that great line, Jesus is the reason for the season, but Advent is certainly a big part of it leading up to it. And so what do you tell people in their lives about spiritual direction when they say, hey, I'm raising children, I'm working 50 hours a week with a job, I'm doing this and doing that, I realize our lives are so busy, but what's your response to that?
Again, I would just encourage them to it's only an hour. It's an hour once a month, or if they want to begin an hour every 2 months. There is always time for God. We need to make time. You know, one of the things I always say, it's tinsel, silent, and listen. We're in there. Those are three different words that are totally different in meaning, and yet they're comprised of the same 6 letters. So we can either choose to live in tinsel, which is what you just described, Christmas cards, this, that, I can't wait for Christmas to be over. Or we can step away and redo the letters of our lives so that it's silent, so that we can listen to the voice of God. And then we can act on it, you know, tinsel, silent, listen.
I like that.
Until we become silent before God, we can never hear his voice. So we have to be aware of the speed bumps of Advent so that we can just step aside and listen. And spiritual direction is just a great way to prepare our hearts again to recognize the great mystery of Jesus becoming one with us at Christmas.
I really like that. Tinsel, silent,
listen.
Are they actually the same letters rearranged?
Mm-hmm. And we can choose which one we want to live in.
I never thought about that. Tinsel, silent, and listen.
Silent,
same letters rearranged with 3 different realities.
Mm-hmm.
And which one do we want to choose to live in?
Right.
We
have the gift of free will. We can choose to live in tinsel our whole life and just burn out. Or we can choose to step away from the tinsel, rearrange, and then to go into silent prayer so that we can then listen to the voice of God.
Boy,
because he's always speaking to us.
Along those lines, Mary, in fact, I remember that. Tinsel, silent, and listen. I'll give you credit as I use it in the future. But
thank you. About
30 years ago, I was on a retreat, and the priest director said, the retreat master, he said, it was a group of priests, young guys, and he said, as you grow older, will life make you better or bitter? And the choice is yours. And I always remember that. As we grow older, is life going to make me better or bitter? And the choice is ours. And I reflect upon that often because I know so many people like you, as they grow older, they have become so bitter, so cynical, so angry, that life owes them something. But I've seen so many other people age gracefully, despite the pains of life, the struggles of life, loss of loved ones. They've aged and have gotten better, and the choice is ours. And now, as we close the program today, Mary, is one more time a phone number to people can get to contact you, and how they can get the book Every Day with Jesus, and also Mayslake Ministries, just to get to the website.
Okay, so our phone number is 630-852-9000.
One more time.
630-852-9000.
And a copy of your book?
Copy of the book, Every Day with Jesus, is available through our Sunday Visitor, which is osv.com, or also on Amazon. And our website is www.MayslakeMinistries.org.
We want to thank you very much, Dr. Mary Amore, the Executive Director of Mayslake Ministries. And Mary, you have been a phenomenal guest once again. Your joy, your energy, and you never cease to amaze me. Every time we get in the program, you keep looking younger. And and happy 16th anniversary as the Executive Director. And, God has been, we are vessels. And let the Lord use us. So may God bless you this Advent journey into leading to Christmas morn. Special thanks also to our producer and director and engineer for this morning, Clint Cottrell. He did everything all by himself because Brian and Michael are busy running elsewhere right now. So to our listeners, may God bless all of you. Continued Advent blessing journey. Have a great day.
Join us every Monday through Friday at this time for Catholic Chicago. You can stream our programs live or listen to past programs by visiting our website, archchicago.org, and clicking on Radio TV. And please connect with Catholic Chicago on social media.